Dear Dean, dear faculty, especially dear students, it's a great honor to be in front of you today to deliver a commencement speech to the MIB 27th class. And first of all, I would like to congratulate with each of you for this accomplishment. I'm the last one in the row to congratulate with you, but I really would like to do it from my heart. I think this is not the end process of your journey, as Tim pointed out in a journey that he illustrated. It's just the starting point of something that you're going to write in your personal narrative. It's very difficult to deliver for me a commencement speech in front of you today, for the first reason that commencement speech requires the ability of condensing concepts that maybe might require and deserve a longer debate. So I will try to do it with a slight intonation and to provide you with a slightly different view from the common sense that sometimes we find in our industry. And I hope this will be something you could use for writing your own narrative. It's fair to say that we live in very turbulent times, and many industries are at the edge of a very important transformation. And it's also fair to say that you will be called to tackle situations that you have not yet experienced. So when I heard anxious about the future, means also anxiety about the experiences that you need to tackle in the future. Historically, in the industry, if you look around the economic system, capital allocation on one side and cost synergy programs have been the two main drivers. But they also shown the limits, and in some cases they also reach a sort of a diminishing return point. Investors can look at capital allocation, cost synergy programs, and efficiency programs driven by technology, giving you interesting valuation multiples. But I think that the end game of this initiative could leave you and your company, your firms, with fewer options and I would say narrow perspective. So in my mind, moving forward, what a manager should do in order to create sustainable growth for the company you are going to lead in the future, or maybe after this graduation ceremony, it's focusing and thinking even more about human capital and human capital allocation. That's, I think, your duty. The quality of your human capital thinking will dictate the quality of the prosperity of the company you are going to manage. You need to ponder, I think, long and hard that the world is not made up by constant things, immutable processes, organizations that are fixed once and for all and forever. Things are really changing, and the only way to understand this changing environment where you're going to practice your profession is to consider that the surrounding world around you is made up by many events, none of which, honestly, is under your full control. You are, in a way, driven by the change more than driving the change. The evolution of the scientific thought tells us that the word change is the best word that you have to think about to understand the world where you live in. The lexicon of the scientific thought means changing. You live always in this transformation process. And it's important to stress this thing because things might remain the same on the surface, but the underlying events are different. And you need to be able to understand the signs of the time, so to understand how things are changing, which are the events behind the world. Anaximandro, a Greek philosopher, a pre-Socratic Greek philosopher of the 6th century, said something that I would like to read. Things transform themselves because of need, and they become meaningful to each other because of time. So this transformation process should be the core of your management thinking. The narrative you're going to write, your own personal narrative, is a changing chapter every single day. You should put yourself in this perspective. So which are the tools you should have? Which is the perspective you should have? Which are the, I would say, gifts you should have in order to change and in order to drive this change? To answer this question, let me go back to some philosophical study, a concept that was developed by a Jewish philosopher called Isaiah Berlin in 1958. He gave a peculiar interpretation about freedom. You might ask now why I'm talking about freedom in front of you, and I'm coming from insurance sector, one of the most annoying sector probably in the world, and I'm talking about freedom. I'm trying to explain why. On one end, you can think of freedom as the absence of obstacles. And this is a concept that Isaiah Berlin called as negative freedom. This concept says that you are free to act if you have no obstacles in acting. If you act or if you don't act in your own organization for your own personal life, doesn't matter. You are free to act. It's a sort of a negative freedom. This negative freedom doesn't push you towards action, but is contemplating the fact that you don't have any obstacles around you to act. On the other hand, there is the positive freedom. Means that you are in a position to write your own narrative, to dictate your own destiny, to shape your own future. And by shaping your own future, you also have the ability to shape the future of the company or the business where you're working. So Isaiah Berlin called these two freedom concepts, negative freedom on one side, the absence of something, and positive freedom, the presence of something. It's useful to think about this difference because my interpretation of this Isaiah Berlin concept is that we should abandon a sort of a scientific management, which is the removal of any obstacles, but we should embark upon a humanistic management, which is the ability of creating conditions in the company in order to foster cooperation and lead people to develop themselves. What the school has done, if I understand correctly your cursus honorum, is exactly the removal of obstacle, negative freedom, but especially giving you more resources, more ability, more capabilities to tackle the world and to start this journey. So from scientific management to humanistic management, if you consider the evolution of management, you certainly are much more equipped than I am to discuss this. You see that in the past we had a Taylor's approach and Ford approaches to the typical automotive industry. What was the role of the people there? Managers were dictating the productivity shift. Workers had to obey the orders. The objective of the manager was to remove the obstacles for increasing productivity, and as an exchange, the workers were receiving the salary. Again, negative freedom concept applicable to this scientific management idea. But this engineering approach to management has shown many limits for one simple reason, that the world has become much more complex. The organizations have become much more complex, and also our jobs, my job as well, has become much more complex than the job I had 25 years ago or the job that another chief executive officer had 25 years ago. And this complexity of the work means that you should consider human capital not only a production factor in the utility function of the corporation, but really the asset that you need to lead and manage to create value and wealth for the society. We have many examples also in some companies very close here when cost-cutting synergies programs are reducing over time the knowledge capital of the company, and this might be a disaster going forward. So my point here is that you should make an effort to move towards humanistic management. Don't believe that I'm so naive that I disregard completely the scientific management. Scientific management remains the core of our process, of our procedures, our planning, our budgeting, but it's not enough. It's not enough because the complexity of our jobs require multiple capabilities, and these multiple capabilities are in every single person that you have the fortune to manage for the benefit of the company. So managers this day, this is my point here today with you before you start your own narrative, should focus much more on human capital than scientific capital. And they should be able to leverage and foster cooperation among individuals. What you have achieved as a group is much more than what you have achieved individually if you sum up all your personal achievements. I think that this change from negative to positive freedom, from competition to cooperation, from scientific management to humanistic management, requires the utilization of human capital in a different way and requires also different type of managers. Again, the model managers in my mind is not the one removing the obstacles, is the one fostering cooperation, is the one creating the conditions so that the human capital of the corporation can exploit its potential. And there is a huge potential in any company I've seen. And also, I think you have the same experience to see what is your own potential that the school has really brought to a very high level. We need another cooperation paradigm. I remember a sentence that one of my old bosses told me: what a person can be, he must be. It's a devastating, revolutionary statement. And I hope that you're going to write your own narrative, thinking that what you can be, you must be, giving also the other colleagues of the company where you're going to work the same opportunity and the same chance. Again, what a person can be, he must be. So we need to work for this self-realization of the human attitudes. And that's why you have embarked upon the master. And that's why the school has welcomed you. That's why the school has worked together with you to exploit your potential. It would be foolish to think that we can completely abandon the scientific management approach. But in my mind, if you want to progress, to create wealth for your own company, you need to keep it and evolve towards a more humanistic management. And that's why I think the company, the firm for which you are going to work, it's not a commodity, it's a community. That's another important concept that you should, in my mind, keep always with yourself. It's a community because there is something that individuals share. You share now belonging to this fantastic group. You share the master achievement. In the future, you will be part of companies and firms, and you will be part of communities. And the firm is not a commodity you can trade on Bloomberg. Company is something more than a commodity you can trade. And one can think as a community, as a business enterprise, or vice versa, a business enterprise as a community, because there are some common elements that people share together. Salaries, perks, in some cases also private jets, or maybe job satisfaction, the pleasure, the reputation. In reality, if you think about one moment at your own experience, a business enterprise is a community because there is an intimate link between people working for a company. And these people should share the mission of the company and the objectives of the company. So working is fundamentally important for everybody, for every single individual. And this in turn, I think, will determine your identity as a manager. I always say, I always repeat to my colleagues in Cattolica that I feel this responsibility as a chief executive officer of a company, not only because I lead 1,600 people and maybe I can dictate the benefit, the welfare of the families, but I feel this responsibility because when the board appointed me last June, they gave me a responsibility on the financial resources of the organization and on the human capital of the organization. And my duty is to use these resources at best and to leave a company which is better than the one that I've inherited, a company which is more profitable, more wealthy, more efficient, but I would say also more human, not only more compassionate, but more human, more cooperative, where my people can have chances to develop and grow. I don't see any contradiction at all, even if I got an experience as a group CFO of another company. I don't see any contradiction between being efficient and profitable, which is our polar star, and being cooperative and human. Unfortunately, we have inserted in our discussion as a manager this dilemma, where it seems that if you want to be profitable as a company, you need to be not human, not cooperative. But I don't think this company will have a longer longevity going forward if they don't have an ethical pathos and morality in what they do. So, in my mind, and that's my last comment to you before we go to the celebration of yourself and what you have achieved, which is fantastic. In my mind, responsibility is the name of the game. Responsibility is like a diamond with three facets. A diamond, to have value, should be bright, should be lightning, should be clean. You need to be clean and bright. On one facet, you see the individual responsibility that you as a person have. Even if you don't write your own narrative, you have it. It's unavoidable. You need to be competent, you need to be good, you need to have the courage of taking decisions, you need to be ethical. That's your individual responsibility. There is also a group responsibility that you share as a group now and as a group in the future when you're going to go back to your company or when you set up your own enterprise. Group responsibility means not working in silos, working together, not being competitive by killing the others, being cooperative, working together with an aim, creating value for the group and for the company, always having the interest of your organization at the forefront, but deciding the ethical tools to pursue these goals. And then there is also a social responsibility for the company, because the company are not on planet Mercurio, they are here. And they contribute to the development and to the improvement of the society where the company lives and operates. I dare say that without this individual responsibility, group responsibility, and social responsibility do not exist. Everything starts from the individual of yourself, of each of you. You shouldn't commit less than this. And if there is individual responsibility, then there might be a group responsibility between you and your peers and in the company where you're going to work and for the society at large. This is honestly my opinion about the manager after 25 years in the insurance industry. So you need to be people that not uncritically adopt a value-free, neutral approach to life. You need to commit yourself. You need to decide which is right, what is wrong. You need to choose for the right one. And you need to be leaders, and you are leaders. You need to be leaders capable of going beyond to take decisions that transform companies from dull places of work in living places. And that's why we get satisfied in terms of job and we get also remunerated. If you achieve that, if you embark upon this journey, you write your own narrative with a strong sense of responsibility, which is individual, which is group, which is social, I think you have all the tools, all the abilities to create value for your company, to create wealth for the society where you're going to live. I trust you will do it, and I wish you good luck. Thank you.